Enjoy with your headphones for better listening experience.
What does heartbreak really feel like? Serious, 1. On December 14, 2006, give or take a day or two, my father presented my mother with divorce papers. Not only did that break my heart, but 2 weeks later, my girlfriend broke up with me. Apparently I was being too much of a burden. Heartbreak feels like you're falling into a hole. Think of that well from The Silence of the Lambs. The walls are smooth and slippery. No matter how hard you try, you can't get out. You ask why these people left you. Could you have said something different to keep them? What are they doing now? Are they happier without you? You can't sleep because your mind is racing too much thinking about them. Food doesn't taste the same, and it makes you nauseated. Getting up and moving around your house is a chore. So instead, you just lay in bed hoping that life will just end and spare you the pain. Your friends slowly stop calling, and a few even tell you to suck it up and stop being so dramatic. A few even tell you it's your fault. Only 1 or 2 stick around. You go to doctors, and they put you on meds, but the meds don't work. You quit your jobs because you feel like your co-workers are judging you for being weak. After a while, you have one good day every month. After a while, you have one good day a week. Then the good days start outnumbering the bad and things get better. 2. I've been there. It's the worst pain in the world. You get anxiety so bad that you have no appetite. You can't sleep. Your mind wanders to dark places, woulda coulda shoulda about the relationship. Your heart literally hurts. You start to notice all these things that remind you of them: a song, a movie, a picture, a smell, etc. The only thing that helped me was Tylenol PM, Gatorade, and crying. Eventually, you will start to realize that it's their loss. 3. Broken heart syndrome is a temporary heart condition brought on by stressful situations, such as the death or loss of a loved one. People with broken heart syndrome may have sudden chest pain or think they're having a heart attack. These broken heart syndrome symptoms may be brought on by the heart's reaction to a surge of stress hormones. In broken heart syndrome, a part of your heart temporarily enlarges and doesn't pump well, while the remainder of the heart functions normally or with even more forceful contractions. The condition was originally called Takotsubo cardiomyopathy. Today, it's also referred to as stress cardiomyopathy, stress-induced cardiomyopathy, or apical ballooning syndrome. The symptoms of broken heart syndrome are treatable, and the condition usually reverses itself in about a week. 4. It feels simply awful. In my experience, lots of inner turmoil and questioning why the scenario happens. You may even question what the point of existence is. Slowly, it evolves into a deep pit of pain and or anger. Everyone has their own version. For me, the worst part of heartbreak is when you've experienced it so much or so often that it simply does not cause you to feel anything, a combination of apathy and being caught in monotony. As someone is getting over whatever heartbreak they've experienced, I believe it is important to not let this feeling take over. Keeping it doesn't bode well for the future. Note, I'm referring to heartbreak as a result of any style of situation, not just romance. 5. Well, for me, I was too much in love with this girl who obviously did not have the same level of feelings for me. By the end of it, I was idealizing her into this demi-goddess and became so obsessed with the idea that I would screw things up and lose her that I became an emotional wreck. When it happened, I felt like everything good in my life was gone, because what was the point without her? I felt numb to most things. I just wanted to sit in my room for the longest time, and totally went blue screen of death whenever someone brought her up or something reminded me of her, which was frequently. 6. You go through disbelief, refusing the refusal. Your world starts flaking at the edges, darkness seeping through the cracks. Over time, as the disbelief turns into depression, your heart feels cold, your emotions not as sharp. Everything is dull and you don't feel there is a point to anything. Days sort of blur into one another, and the darkness muddies every aspect of happiness. You start to feel shallow and hollow, not putting much emotion into anything. You start wearing fake emotions, not trusting anyone around you to not hurt you. After a while, you start to mend a little. Real emotions shine through the cracks, but it's hard for you to trust that you won't be hurt again. Eventually, a real relationship may take hold. In the beginning, it is hard to believe anything they say. You don't believe that they think you're pretty/handsome. You don't think they mean it when they say you're smart/talented. It takes years of vigorous pounding with words to drive home anything positive. Any misstep on their part is tenfold. That dress isn't very pretty. Then you must not be pretty. It is very easy to fall back into the murkiness. For me, it took years to come out of a serious crush and heartbreak. It was, and still is, hard for me to understand the positive things about myself. It took 2 years of meditation and self-reflection to see beauty in the world and to talk to people like I do. Heartbreak feels like pain. Who you are, and how you handle it, is a different story. 7. It's a terrible feeling of hopelessness and darkness. You feel as if nothing will ever get better and your mind is stuck on one thing. It does take time. It took me 6 months. It's a feeling I never want to experience again. 8. Painful. Physically painful. When it happened to me, it was like a mild panic attack. A large knot of pain in my chest seemed to spread tentacles out into my shoulders and abdomen. I couldn't breathe, could barely stand up, and found myself stopped in my tracks. This happened every time I saw her with him. I couldn't sleep at night and held the prospect of bed with a mixture of dread and relief. Dread because I couldn't stand to be alone with my thoughts, and relief that I didn't have to be around people anymore, because I was thinking about her then, and everything else became like white noise. I wouldn't eat, purely because I'd be sat there lost in miserable thoughts about her, neglecting everything else. 9. The closest feeling that commonly occurs to what I've experienced that wasn't heartbreak was being bored. Imagine being bored, like an 8-year-old at church bored. Everything is just never-ending, bottomless, and terribly pointless. That's what heartbreak felt like for me, just utter pointlessness that seems unending. 10. Just gloomy all around. One will feel about the people running hard for their life like they are hunting troubles unknowingly without resting in peace. Can be cured but can't say the time of its existence. Better to be with friends as much as possible. 11. I felt a very physical pain in my chest. It hurt really bad. I cried uncontrollably. No matter how hard I tried to choke back the tears, I couldn't. All I could do was roll up into a ball and let it all out. Emotionally, I was just completely shattered. Never again, man, which sucked. 12. It sucks. I'm dealing with it right now. It's gotten better, but it's still rough. My ex and I broke up about a month and a half ago. This is the first person I've ever really been in love with. I thought I had been in love a few times before, and I was wrong. This was also the first time I had ever actually had sex with someone that I cared about, which is a whole mother story. I've never loved someone so much. We would do fun and unique things together and make memories. We would do boring and mundane things like watch Netflix and make it fun. I would come home after a bad day of work and have someone to hug me, tell me it was okay, and fall asleep with it. It was the happiest I had ever been. Hell, this was the first time I had had serious discussions about life in the future. I had thought about proposing to her for some time, moving in together. She had mentioned that I was the first person she had ever seen herself maybe having kids with. Shit was real. Anyways, the breakup was mutual in the sense that I understood that she wasn't happy, and I wanted her to be happy. I was still madly in love with her, and her feelings had started to wane. She just didn't want things to get bad, to wait until something terrible happened. So, I complied. The first few days were rough. I had simultaneously lost my lover and my best friend. Things started falling apart for me, lost a job, family matters, etc., and I no longer had my strongest part of my support system. I was already dragging on my friends by being mopey and depressed, venting about our breakup, and I couldn't drop more on them. I would think about her, and I could feel my chest tighten up like a vice. Lots of hyperventilating and crying. It doesn't help that I have depression and anxiety issues, which she had really helped me with, that snapped back into the picture. Lots of thinking about killing myself or checking myself into a mental hospital. I lost about 30 pounds in 3 weeks because I wasn't eating. It was the bad combination of not wanting to eat or feeling hungry, and whenever I did eat, I usually threw it back up within half an hour. I started drinking a lot. For the next 2 weeks, whenever I was done working and having to drive or be responsible, I was shut-housed so I wouldn't feel anything. I realized that this wasn't okay, as well as expensive, so I managed to cut back on that aspect. I also picked up smoking cigarettes again. I still feel my chest tighten up whenever someone mentions her name by accident or I see something that reminds me of her, which is almost everything. I think about her probably about every 10 to 15 minutes, depending on if I can distract myself deeply enough to not think about her for an hour or so. I sleep in my bed and realize it feels so much bigger without someone else in it. I see her everywhere. I'm lucky if I can get a solid 4 hours of sleep at night. Generally, I can't sleep until the wee hours of the morning, and I end up taking small spurts of passing out during the night. I don't usually leave my room and or bed if I have time or days off. And it sucks. To leave you with a more exact and condensed version, here's a slam poem by one of my favorite writers, Neil Hilborn. He got internet famous for his poem OCD. 13. You feel numb and empty and get really sad and then really angry and sort of alternate between the two for a long time. Think of your most cherished possession and your worst enemy, then your enemy holds you down and burns that thing right in front of you while simply smiling. It's kinda like that, but you eventually get over it. 14. It feels like a panic attack. Quite literally. Your mind begins to worry about what your life will be like without the other. You begin to realize how many things you are currently doing are because of others. This makes you think as if the world is crashing down, because your world is crashing down. Think of it as if you were going to college because your significant other wanted you to. Now you are in college and have lost the only thing that put you there. That's what happened to me, at least. Stress/panic/worry sets in. You get over it though. After a few weeks you see the positive side of things and move on. 15. It's like feeling love still, but nowhere to put it. Like your heart has turned to iron. Really heavy and cold.
Thanks for watching. Please comment, like, share and subscribe. The Internet Surfer on YouTube for more horror and scary stories.